It began here in Ireland, at the Harlan and Wolff shipyard in Belfast. 3,000 men would labor here for more than 2 years. They were building a monster, the largest ship the world had ever seen. In the spring of 1909, a mountain of steel began to rise against the sky. The ship would weigh 66,000 tons. Her hull would span 4 city blocks. Each of her colossal steam engines was the size of a 3-story house. The huge scale of these things was a source of delight. It was a scene out of Gulliver's Travels when 20 draft horses were needed to haul the ship's anchor through the streets of Belfast. Some few observers found this giant threatening and wrote of her nightmare scale. But their forebodings fell short of the event, for the fate of this ship still fascinates the world, and her name is a synonym for tragedy.
She was the largest ship in the world, designed to be the epitome of style, luxury, and safety. Her passengers included the world's most famous celebrities. But 4 days into her maiden voyage, she would face a disaster so terrible, it would shatter the faith of an age. She was the legendary RMS Titanic.
There was peace, and the world had an even tenor to its way.
Jean, regarde, c'est merveilleux.
Would you pass the tea? Did you see the design of the dining room? It's marvelous, isn't it?
I'm delighted to be in the company of all these handsome gentlemen. Now, qu'est-ce que t'as arrivé?
It seems to me that the disaster about to occur was the event that not only made the world rub its eyes and awake, but woke it with a start. To my mind, the world of today awoke April 15th, 1912. Jack Thayer, Titanic survivor.
Scientific expedition is exploring one of the most distant and dangerous archaeological sites on Earth. The site is 2.5 miles below the surface of the ocean. It is the site of the RMS Titanic. newly invented research tools will let us see Titanic like never before. Archaeologists will write a new chapter in Titanic's fabled history. And they will attempt the impossible, to raise a piece of Titanic's massive hull. It is a race against time, a battle against the elements, a dangerous expedition that pits man against nature.
In the spring of 1912, RMS Titanic slipped beneath the ocean waves. Her disappearance is riddled with rumor and speculation. The truth has never been completely known. What exactly happened on that terrible night to cause the death of 1,523 men, women, and children? Titanic took many secrets to her final resting place. Now, an unprecedented scientific expedition pieces together Titanic's final hours. Clue by clue, evidence is being gathered. Piece by piece, a story is beginning to unfold. New discoveries are shattering age-old myths. Science is taking us back in time to witness the sinking of the unsinkable Titanic.
In the dark waters of the North Atlantic, the great passenger liner RMS Titanic came to a violent and mysterious end. Each of her passengers, unwitting players in a harrowing drama. The builder who would pronounce her dead. The brave men who refused to let her die. Thousands of people who struggled for their lives. Now, for the first time, a prominent Titanic historian will retell her tragic tale from the ship's actual decks. Haunting locations will take us back to pivotal moments during the epic disaster. Newly discovered artifacts are helping to piece together Titanic's untold stories. It's a moment in history we're still striving to understand. A part of our past impossible to forget.
She was a ship that launched 1,000 legends. The RMS Titanic. In her time, the largest moving object in the world. A crown jewel in an age of confidence. And then, a glancing blow with an iceberg sent her and all that she represented to the bottom of the sea. 50 1,500 lives were lost. Gone, too, was our boundless faith in the promise of technology. Titanic had vanished. 86 years later, she is still impossible to forget. Since the ship was found, broken in two, her debris scattered across a mile of ocean floor,
hydraulics up.
scientists have been sifting through her wreckage for evidence of her final hours.
Good? Yeah, they're good.
Sorting out truth from legend, fact from folklore. Silent for so many years, the ship has much to say, but her time is running out. 2.5 miles down in a hostile world as alien as another planet, Titanic's majestic hull is disintegrating. The ocean is claiming her once again. With clues of her demise slowly dissolving, we return to Titanic, live.
Tonight, learn the shocking truth behind the legend and discover the dark secrets hidden for nearly a century at the bottom of the Atlantic. Travel back in time as we unravel mysteries long believed unsolvable. Now, at last, the lies and whitewashes can be exposed, and the true story can finally be told. Join us for Titanic, Secrets Revealed.
There are stories so powerful, they grip the world in an electric spell of fascination.
It's gonna hit!
For nearly a century, the story of the Titanic disaster has mesmerized us all.
Let's stretch your legs.
Tonight, follow director James Cameron on his quest to find a human drama more powerful than fiction, deeply embedded in the reality of the past.
You give us the chance to live! Stay back! Stay back, the lot of you!
Hear chilling accounts from real-life survivors of the disaster.
The horror of people drowning is something that no one could possibly tell you.
Help us!
Frankly, I wanted it to be more terrifying.
Lock the gates!
Learn the truth about the mysteries and controversies of the sinking.
That ship broke in half as it sank. I am convinced of it. I know it's true. That's the way we saw it.
But this ship can't sink. I assure you, she can't.
Go deeper inside the wreck of the real Titanic than anyone has ever been.
We're going to work our way back to you where we can photograph that action. We're going to give it one try.
Also see the lost scenes from the film, exclusive footage cut from Cameron's final version.
We have to go back!
No, and I'm in charge of this boat, madam.
Tonight, go on the decks of Titanic and experience its power like never before.
Nearly 100 years ago, the great RMS Titanic came to rest at the bottom of the North Atlantic. More than 1,500 men, women and children were killed when the ship went down. To this day, much of her destruction remains mysterious. But there are clues hidden in the cold and dark. Her torn and twisted wreckage still has a story to tell.
Now, for the first time, a full-scale forensic investigation will tackle the case. An arsenal of high-tech hardware will perform a deep-sea examination. Pieces of Titanic will be dissected and analyzed. New techniques will reveal aspects of the tragedy never before witnessed or understood. Battling hurricane winds and hostile seas, investigators will work to unravel secrets nearly a century old. Titanic's true and dramatic story may finally be told, as scientists uncover answers from the abyss.
Far beneath the Earth's surface, deep on the ocean floor, one landmark continues to fascinate above all the rest.
We had no connection to land, but we knew that we were 2.5 miles directly above a very significant gravesite.
Its tragic tale has been told many times.
And it was just a horrendous story of everything that could go wrong did go wrong.
But there is another story, an ongoing technological drama, a high-tech adventure to discover and explore the mysteries of the RMS Titanic.
Titanic was sort of this lost mythical thing, but then it suddenly wasn't.
This is that story, a quest marked by failure, success, classified operations, and moral uncertainty. 90 years after the loss of 1,500 souls, the story continues to this day.
The waters are still, the shipyard almost silent. But a century ago, this grey Belfast quayside witnessed a legend in the making. This was the birthplace of the most famous ship the world has ever seen, Titanic. She was to be colossal, magnificent, built to match the vision of the men who made her. Men driven by boundless ambition.
Yes, I am laying down a challenge. Perhaps the greatest in the history of shipbuilding.
By a sense of foreboding.
How on earth can we get more than 3,000 people into 16 lifeboats?
And by absolute conviction.
Is the ship safer? We don't know of it. As far as I'm concerned, she is practically unsinkable.
But the true forgotten Titanic story is that of the workers who built the world's most luxurious ship with their bare hands. It's a story of violence and high political drama, of despair and tragedy, and of shame. Titanic, 5 years in the making, sank in less than 3 hours. 1,500 died. Among them, a handful of the shipyard men who brought her to life. This is the authentic, untold story of those men and their ship.
human eyes have seen this since 1912. The state of preservation is uncanny. It really is. I mean, now I feel like the archaeologists that found King Tut's tomb.
Two and a half miles down on the bottom of the Atlantic lies what's left of the world's most famous ship. Since it was discovered 20 years ago, the Titanic's hulk has been giving up its secrets. More is known about this ship and the 1,521 people who died on her maiden voyage than any other maritime disaster.
John Jacob Astor put Madeline Astor into the lifeboat right through one of those windows right there.
The Titanic is tales of heroes and cowards, of greed and generosity, of astounding bad luck and incredible good fortune. It's an epic story that became one of the most successful feature films of all time. But now the Titanic is fading. The sea is claiming her remains.
Titanic is going away. It's corroding as a result of Mother Nature. So we want to get in there and take a look at what is contained within Titanic before she's lost forever.
The man who made the movie, James Cameron, is bewitched by this ship.
Unbelievable.
Diving more than 30 times to explore her remains. Now Cameron, supported by the Discovery Channel, is going back to the Titanic for the final time.
I'm gonna kind of wrap up my 10-year odyssey with Titanic with this expedition. I won't be coming back here, so.
He's taking an amazing high-tech expedition to find more of Titanic's lost treasures.
Oh, say it's not the clock. Say it is not the clock on the mantle. Oh my God.
And trying to uncover her last mysteries.
The unsinkable Titanic disappears beneath the frigid waters of the North Atlantic.
When you call it unsinkable, it is as if you are tempting the gods.
1985. After years of searching, explorers discover the wreck, broken in 2 sections.
How she broke her back is still under investigation.
2006. A new expedition uncovers missing pieces and surprising new evidence. Evidence that may forever change what we know about Titanic's final moments.
You would almost think that the story has been told.
There are things on Titanic that are not understood.
The physical ship on the bottom still has a lot to tell us.
That is the most significant Titanic footage I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my God, unbelievable.
The sinking of the RMS Titanic on the 15th of April 1912 has become one of the most profound moments in modern history. News of the tragedy shocked the world, signaling the end of an era where mankind had put its trust and belief in technology. It was not just the death toll of over 1,500 that added to the sorrow of the disaster. The sinking of the Titanic was a story of man challenging nature and losing. She boasted to be unsinkable, yet sank 4 days into her maiden voyage. Following the disaster, there was an attempt to shift the focus from tragedy to one of heroism. The name Titanic came to embody not just a cruel act of God, but the story of selfless bravery and duty to the last. As the tale of Titanic passed from generation to generation, the stories of her class structure and the inevitable loss of life on a ship with too few lifeboats were well told. What is not known is the story of the men below deck, in her engine rooms,
the men who worked to keep Titanic afloat and her systems running to the last minute, saving many lives. As she sank, this group of men tried to hold back the power of the sea and save the Titanic.
Of all the relics of history on the ocean floor, none is more mysterious or compelling than Titanic. This is the Titanic we all know, from books, films, and television. But there is another Titanic, never seen by human eyes.
We don't even have half the pieces.
Until now.
No one's ever gone into that accident scene and mapped out all the elements.
This is the first time we're going to get this big picture.
A new expedition searches every inch of 15 square miles for the first time ever and finds every missing piece.
This was a big chunk of Titanic we had no idea existed.
Creating the first ever complete map of the entire wreck site, they look to unravel the disaster.
We're learning a lot for the first time about how Titanic really sank.
Virtually reassemble Titanic.
Reconstruct the ship and raise it back up to where it last left the surface.
And attempt to solve a 100-year-old mystery. Did Titanic have a fatal flaw?
It has haunted these waters for 100 years. Titanic.
Why go back to Titanic? What's left to be seen? The answer is everything.
A new expedition brings us closer than ever before.
It gives you that feeling of size and immensity.
For the first time, 3D cameras and advanced sonar technology capture startling new information.
This mission really gave us the ability to finally understand the Titanic wreck site.
Never before seen sections.
The 3D made it real and tangible.
And thousands of missing pieces.
It's a time capsule. You know that this object was used in 1912.
The most extensive, high-tech exploration of Titanic ever.
Finally being able to see the big picture.
Reveals a 3D world no one could have imagined. One that brings astonishing new dimension to the stories of those who survived and those who did not.
This is the part of Titanic's story we all know. But what happened to Titanic after the last eyewitness saw her slip beneath the surface? Titanic is the perfect unsolved murder mystery. It hit there, but then it kind of whiplashes when it hits the ground back here. What happened in the final minutes of the ship? How did it break up? How did it fall? How did it hit the bottom? Why did she sink so fast? Could more lives have been saved? Did I get the details right in the feature film?
No, I'm talking about the sinking, the way you depicted the sinking.
But we didn't do it because we didn't know. For the first time ever, I've gathered all the evidence and 8 of the world's leading Titanic experts, all together in one place. Some have been to the wreck, some approach it through the testimony, some approach it through the physical forensics.
We respectfully disagree.
No one gets out of this room until we piece together, once and for all, what happened in Titanic's final minutes. We're going to argue. I guarantee you, it'll get heated.
Coincidence, there is no coincidence.
There's no such thing as coincidence. I agree. Now, on the 100th anniversary of the tragedy, 15 years after the film's initial release, it's time for the final word on what really happened to Titanic.
Near one, and Jason is coming out of his hinge, over.
Here he comes, he's out. We released Titanic 20 years ago. It seems like a lifetime. But I remember everything like it was yesterday, from the first dive to the wreck to our last day of production. We were creating a living history, so I needed every detail as accurate as we could make it. We owed the truth to the hundreds of souls lost that night in 1912. Even now, I feel a responsibility to the living and the dead. Did we get it right? After decades of exploration and scientific analysis, we know a lot more than we did when we made the film. So I've gathered a team of experts, Park Stevenson, Ken Marshall, and Don Lynch, to reopen the case file on Titanic and look at what we've discovered over the last 20 years. We'll investigate whether more lifeboats on board could have saved more lives. I think I probably would cut faster if my life depended on it. Hear the surprising story of how the long-lost ship was found.
Did you get spooked? It was spooky.
And learn how the film affected the families of some of Titanic's famous passengers.
Molly Brown sounded like a real pistol. I would have loved to have met her.
She was larger than life.
We'll step back in time to see how our sets match up against what we found at the wreck site, and we'll mount tests that may answer questions about the sinking that have bothered me for almost 2 decades.
Yes!
We'll see where we were right and where we got it wrong.